Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Games for Girls podcast. I hope that you're watching on youtube.com/OutKick. That's where you can find all things Games for Girls. You can like, you can comment, you can subscribe so you never miss an episode. I hope you do that. Last week, we had my husband on with me, which is always so much fun. I love getting the comments and the messages from you guys after an episode where he joins because all of you are just like enamored with his accent. He's like what I describe as a British cowboy. It's British. Of course, he lived in England until 2018. Actually, he spent some time I think he lived 7 years in Dubai, lived in Malta, lived in Kuwait, back to England, came to the United States in 2018. So very much a British accent, but it has totally been Southernized, which I think is the funniest thing ever. So if you want to hear what a British cowboy sounds like, go back and watch last week's episode. We talked about all things birth of our beautiful baby girl, who is just about 2 weeks, actually a little over 2 weeks old at this point, which is crazy. Like, time is already flying. She's already grown so much. Like, I can tell she's heavier too, which is insane. Again, only in 2 short weeks, how much she's grown. We talked about the labor and delivery process, what that looked like, what things went to plan, the birth plan that I had drummed up in my head prior to this experience, what did not go to plan. So again, you can go back and watch last week's episode, but we have exciting stuff ahead for this week. Lots of things to discuss and talk about. Very excited to discuss. I teased this over on my Instagram, which you guys were very excited about. My personal experience with gubernatorial candidate of California, Katie Porter. We'll get into that. But before we do, I, number one, want to start this episode. It doesn't feel right not starting it by acknowledging what yesterday was, which, of course, is Charlie Kirk's birthday. As probably many of you know now at this point, as I've talked about on Fox News, I've talked about it on my socials, we've talked about it on this podcast. We had a tribute dedicated to Charlie in the days following his assassination. But as you guys probably know, I'm an employee with Turning Point USA, meaning Charlie Kirk was my boss, technically. But more than that, a friend, a mentor, someone that I admired, deeply. This is someone who had, I don't have to tell you guys this. I mean, the intellect, the strategy, the willingness, I think that's a big part of it, to do what needed to be done to ensure success, number one, politically, to turn the culture around, but most importantly, to turn people, especially young people, to Christ. And he did it so effectively by simply saying, "Prove me wrong," which they could not do. So what did they do? They ultimately prematurely ended his life. So I just wanted to start this episode by reminding you all to live a life like Charlie Kirk did, which is ultimately a life that Jesus led. Now, I am not saying that Charlie Kirk himself was Jesus. Of course not. We, as human beings, we are sinners, but we understand that we have a Lord and Savior who walked this earth, who died for our sins on the cross. He was crucified. He rose again 3 days later with the hope and the promise of eternal life. Charlie knew that. He believed that to be true. I have no doubt that he is sitting in heaven right now, smiling down at the cultural revival that we have seen. That gets tossed around a lot. People talk about this revival. I really, really believe it, and we will continue to see that. But not without all of us continuing to put our foot on the gas. Which leads me to talk about something else that has been really good news this week, and something that I know Charlie would have been so excited about. This is something that he talked about a lot. To me personally, on his socials, was the releasing of the Israeli hostages. As of this week, all living Israeli hostages have been released and freed from captivity by Hamas. This is fantastic news. I talked about this on my socials, and I had people coming out and saying, "Look, you're being paid $7,000 to post this by Bibi Netanyahu himself," which is the most ridiculous thing ever. The things that I have been posting, even what we're going to very briefly discuss on this podcast about the hostages, it's not even a pro-Israel message. It is a pro-releasing of innocent civilians and human beings from captivity, from being held hostage message, okay? So this is fantastic news. I don't care if you're pro-Palestine. I don't care if you're pro-Israel. I don't care if you're America first. It doesn't matter. Any day where innocent civilians are released from captivity is a good day. And we certainly have to thank President Trump for it. Man, things would have been very, very different if Kamala Harris was our 47th president of the United States. Let's watch this.
It is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy.
Again, I am grateful today and every day that Kamala Harris is not the president of the United States. President Trump made it very clear on his campaign trail, even. Like, this was a promise that he made. He said many, many times in talking to the hostages, we will not abandon you. We will not forget about you. With God's help, we will get you safely returned back home. So just count this as another promise made and another promise kept. The American people should be proud of President Trump delivering on his results. He has been the most consequential president, at least in my lifetime, in my living memory, that's for sure. And the most beautiful part of that is we still have 3 more years of him. So praise God for that. If you're watching over on youtube.com/OutKick, which I hope you are, I'm going to put up an image, a graphic, of the 20 remaining living Israeli hostages that had been released by Hamas this week. And I want you to tell me if you notice anything in particular. I'll give you a few seconds. How about the fact that there are no women, right? Doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to pick this out. Now let's ask ourselves the question of why. I believe this to be a pretty rhetorical question. If you know anything about radical Islam, it's a rhetorical question, but even still, let's dissect it. Why would a radical Islamist terrorist organization not have any women who had been spared? That's because they don't view women as worthy of being spared. It's hard for me to even think about the unspeakable things that have likely been done to these women, these hostages, the women who were held captive by Hamas. I mean, you think back to October 7th, 2 years ago. The videos that surfaced on social media, I mean, the gore of it, really. Of course, I would never include that in this podcast, honestly, because it is so graphic. Women on the backs of trucks who, I mean, you could literally see blood coming out from their clothing where they had been brutally raped, where they had been terrorized, and we can likely conclude that they have been murdered. So the question I want to ask, I mean, pretty directly to the people who claim to be feminists, the people who claim to care about human rights or more specifically, women's rights. Where have you been? Where have you been the past few years? I mean, I'm talking much longer than just going back 2 years ago to October 7th of 2023 when we saw the horrific treatment of these women on videos for the world to see, much longer than that. Sharia law has been around much longer than that. And if you don't know what Sharia law is, this is the law that is practiced by the radical Islamic groups that I was talking about. It's practiced in countries like Afghanistan, where there's the Taliban. It's practiced in Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. The list goes on. These women are ultimately denied education. They're denied literacy. They're forced into marriage as young as 9 years old. They can't show their skin or their hair or their face in public. They cannot speak to men that they are not related to or married to. These are women who are deprived of fundamental human rights. I am sickened at the weak, honestly, international response. Where has the UN been? And silence from these feminist groups as women are left with fewer rights than dogs have in many Middle Eastern countries, because at least dogs can bark without being imprisoned. We haven't seen any protests on college campuses for these women. We've seen no statement from the UN. And I think the kicker in all of this is, guess who's funding this? We are. You are. I am. We as American taxpayers are funding this. We are directly funding terrorism. We are directly funding the oppression of women and girls. We are directly funding pedophilia, etc. The list goes on when we send them our taxpayer dollars. I'm grateful for people like Congressman Burchett of Tennessee. He makes me very proud to be a Tennessean for introducing H.R. 260, which would end the American funding of the Taliban. It was made public that we're sending them up to $40 million a week. In the wise words of Senator Kennedy, they will hate us for free. We do not have to send them our hard-earned taxpayer dollars. All that to say, and I have no problem saying this out loud and publicly and directly looking into a camera, not all cultures are equal, okay? Radical Islam is not compatible with the West. Again, Sharia law, let me tell you what it's rooted in. Pedophilia, total oppression of women. It's rooted in honor killings, forced compliance, okay? It has no place in Western civilization. I want to show you one clip of Alyssa from The View. Watch this.
My point when I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic, it's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah.
If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like, you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing.
Do we think that she will hold up her end of the deal here? Look, I have plenty of MAGA hats that I will happily donate to her to wear on The View. That will probably be, if this happens, which it won't, by the way, it would probably be the most views that The View has had in a really, really long time, because lots of people, myself included, would be tuned in to watch this live on television. But again, not likely that's going to happen. As I said, I want to get into this conversation surrounding Katie Porter, partially because I have a personal experience with her that I'm very excited to talk about. But the videos that have surfaced over the past week or so, many of them have been, several years old, but they're all just now starting to surface. If you don't know who Katie Porter is, she's a former congresswoman from California, and now she is running to be governor of California. If you didn't think it could get worse than Gavin Newsom, look, I will let you make up your own mind. You can do that by the end of this episode, but I believe that you would be entirely ill-informed, because Katie Porter, I believe her to be the definition of insufferable. She is entitled, she is arrogant, she is out of touch. And what these videos this past week have really shown us is that she is a downright miserable human being. Let's watch this video first of this interview heard around the world.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, man?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're thinking.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't
I
think
feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
correct. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered our follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never
reporter.
had to do this before, ever.
You've never had to have a conversation with
to end an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So I am going to make...
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about. And redistricting is a massive issue. We're going to do an entire story just on the responses to that question. And I've asked everybody the same follow-up question.
If that is Katie Porter with the cameras on, imagine her with the cameras off when the cameras are not around. Couple things. Number one, I think this reporter did a fantastic job at being a reporter, at being a journalist, asking the follow-up questions, even when it was very clear Katie Porter did not want to answer them. Seems like, I mean, bare minimum, right? It should be default, the standard position for a journalist to ask the tough questions, which it's amazing to me. It's considered a tough question to be asked, you know, do you need Republicans to win? That's what Democrats think a tough question is, whatever. Something that would cause an unhappy or an unpleasant experience, as Katie Porter said she wanted to avoid, which this is all coming back to bite her in the butt. But the journalist did a good job. So really well done by her. She stayed even keeled. She wasn't panicking. She, you know, even offered to move on when Katie Porter said, I'm going to get up. I'm not doing this. I've never done this. That's what she says. I'm going to get up. Secondly, I believe Katie Porter in this clip, not only was she vile, I mean, she was unnecessarily combative. All she really had to say is, I welcome, from the beginning, is I welcome all voters in my camp, even people who voted for Trump. If you voted for Trump and you've been hurt by his policies or his tariffs or his inflation, or I mean, she could have inserted 1,000 things that she believes Trump has done a bad job on. The American people, like myself, would likely disagree. But she could have just said, there's a home for you in my campaign. She couldn't do that. It pained her to even welcome, we know the Democrats hate Trump, right? But it pained her to even be associated with Trump voters, which I think she's forgetting is the majority of America. And while California is a blue state, there was a significant amount in terms of people, right, per capita, people who voted for President Trump. Let it be known, Katie Porter does not want you. She doesn't want your vote. All right, the next two clips I want to show of Katie Porter, it shows her just absolutely berating her staff. Let's watch this one first.
Oh, yes. This is why I didn't want to do, I need the lights off, the bright lights. I'm so sorry, but I am about to get on. Bernard, I need you to turn these off.
Lights off?
These that are killing me. Hang on one second, everybody.
No, we should put the computer up on it.
Yes, yes, we should have. Yes. Okay, everybody, I'm not that dark.
It's too dark.
Just a minute.
I watched that clip and then I think to myself, now imagine her running an entire state. That's a pretty terrifying thought. The thing I'm convinced of, number one, is that her staff hates her, right? Like, they can't enjoy working for her. I mean, I would not appreciate being talked to like that. I don't care who I'm working for. It could be the president himself. It could be, I mean, anyone. I would not appreciate anyone talking to me like that. Secondly, I think you learn a lot about someone based on how they treat people they don't necessarily have to be nice to, okay? I think a good test here is like the waiter or waitress test. How someone treats the person serving them at a restaurant. This is not someone you have typically a personal relationship with. You don't have to interact very kindly as they're taking your order or bringing you your food. But it's a pretty good test as to someone's character, who they are as a human being. I believe if you're demeaning to certain people because you think you can get away with it, then you're not a good person. And that's what Katie Porter was exhibiting here. And even if her staff got that lighting right, there's no lighting that would make Katie Porter likable. Let's watch this video.
It's dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems, and the state could lose. Get out of my fucking shot.
I wanted to tell you that that's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay, you also were in my shot before that. Stay out of my shot. Okay, I'm going to start again with electric vehicles saving us money.
The only person who would react this way to someone stepping in your shot is a sociopath, okay? A sociopath. Again, imagine what this woman is like when the cameras are not on. And it's the fact that this woman was leading, I think still is leading, the gubernatorial race in California. Like, this person could potentially, I mean, even has a good chance at being California's next governor. We cannot let that happen. Look, I have defended California. I'm a Tennessean. We have lots of Californians, people who call themselves really political refugees, who are coming to my state, fleeing California. They say they can't do the harmful, discriminatory, radical, destructive policies anymore. They're coming to the free state of Tennessee, a bastion of freedom, really. But look, if California votes Katie Porter as their next governor, then I can't keep defending you guys. I think you get what you deserve at that point. So yeah, this isn't a good look, but shocker, Katie Porter is not the only Democrat who treats her staff this way. The girl boss to bully pipeline is a tale as old as time. Meghan Markle is another one who's notorious for being a bully and being cruel to her staff to the point of tears. Kamala Harris as well. She had a 92% staff turnover rate. Her former aides called her unbearable, saying she created a toxic, chaotic workplace when she was VP. She allegedly made staff stand and salute her as general when she was the Attorney General of California. Who's another one? Jasmine Crockett. That's been another one that's been in the news the past few months. She's accused of cursing at and humiliating her staff, forcing them to do her personal work for her, using them as chauffeurs and for DoorDash drivers and things like that. These are some of the most unhappy women you will ever come across. And you probably are asking yourself the question, how can their husbands even possibly stand them? Well, let me tell you, amidst all of these clips of Katie Porter and her temper tantrums and her miserable character going viral, resurfaced divorce documents allege that California gubernatorial contender Katie Porter once dumped scalding mashed potatoes on her ex-husband's head during a fight. Ex-husband. I know that you are shocked to hear that that marriage did not work out. This article is from the New York Post here. I'm just going to read it because honestly, it's pretty telling. Again, Katie Porter once dumped scalding mashed potatoes on her then husband's head during a fight. Resurfaced divorce documents allege as clips of her fiery temper continued to go viral. The former Golden State Congresswoman's ex-hubby, Matthew Hoffman, filed for divorce in 2013 and detailed that the Democrat, who has a reputation for exploding at her staff, frequently abused him verbally and threw, quote unquote, toys, books, and other objects at him during their marriage. Hoffman also filed for a restraining order from his rage-prone spouse, claiming she would routinely call him an effing idiot and effing incompetent, and shattered a glass coffee pot in their kitchen counter in March of 2012 when she felt their house wasn't clean enough. Imagine being married to that. Now, this is what Hoffman says, her ex-husband. He says, she would not let me have a cell phone because she said, you're too effing dumb to operate it. He continues on and says, when she gets angry, she will claw and scratch her arms and then say to me, look at what you made me do. That is sociopathic, psychotic, really, behavior. He goes on, she regularly says that I'm a bad parent in front of the kids. Recently, the children began spitting at me, throwing their food at me, and calling me bad daddy. He claimed that back in 2006, Porter blew up over how he was making mashed potatoes, snapping, saying, can't you read the effing instructions, before she raised a ceramic bowl of steaming hot potatoes and dumped it on my head, burning my scalp, according to the court documents. They were married in 2003, had 3 children before calling it quits. So she dumped the potatoes on his head in 2006. So she's allegedly been this awful for nearly 20 years, at least. I mean, likely much longer than that. I doubt the potatoes were the first time that she exhibited these characteristics that now we are all getting to see on full display. I will say, after watching all the videos this week, it's pretty easy for me to imagine her dumping potatoes on someone's head. This is a woman who has anger issues. Now I want to tell you about my personal experience with her. Okay, first I'm going to play a little clip for you. Little context, this was Katie Porter appearing with Piers Morgan on Bill Maher's show. Watch this.
We should be able to have a civil debate. Nobody, including Riley Gaines, who I disagree with strongly, should feel
What do you disagree with, out of interest?
I think that it should be up to sporting bodies to make the decisions about who and how should compete.
What has she said that's actually wrong?
I think that what she has done is try to turn this. We talked about people, using things to kind of get likes and get clicks.
That's not what she's doing. I've got no truck for Riley Gaines personally, but all I've seen her do is stand up for women's rights to fairness and equality.
But
she actually competed against Leah Thomas, and it was obviously unfair. Leah Thomas won one of the races in the NCAA championships by 50 seconds against a bunch of biological females who simply couldn't keep up. That cannot be right. It cannot be fair.
That is something that I think our sporting bodies should be dealing with. And by the way, Riley is speaking up for herself, and that is her prerogative, and I respect her free speech.
I think she's speaking up for pretty much every female athlete in the world.
Wasn't that...
There we go. Katie Porter calling me a grifter or something to the effect, saying that I am doing and have been doing what I have been doing for clicks and likes. It's amazing to me because before this, they were talking about Dylan Mulvaney. If you don't know who Dylan Mulvaney is, I encourage you to look him up on TikTok. This is a man who pretends to be a woman. He created a song talking about the days of girlhood. He I mean, it's really deeply and utterly misogynistic, his approach on womanhood or girlhood, and now he's on Broadway. And anyways, I encourage you to go look that up in your free time. I don't want to spend time talking about him. But anyways, prior to this conversation that you saw between Piers and Katie, they were talking about Dylan Mulvaney. She doesn't think Dylan Mulvaney, the most like performative, theatrical person there could possibly be, again, mocking women, really. She doesn't think that he does what he does for clicks and likes. But me, on the other hand, a woman defending other women, that's all for my own personal benefit. Really, Katie? What personal benefit have I had here? I will say, of course, I am so blessed. I am blessed with a fantastic family. I am blessed with fantastic friends. I am blessed to know that, again, I have a Lord and Savior who gives me the hope and the promise of eternal life because he died for my sins. Like, I am blessed beyond belief, really. But to say, especially, I mean, you think back to 2022, a totally different political, social, cultural climate than we're living in 2025. It was not favorable to say what I was saying, which, I mean, is as simple as men can't become women. Ooh, I know, scary, right? It wasn't favorable to say that. Like, I've been spit on. I've had drinks poured on me, glass bottles thrown at me. I've had feces, human feces thrown at me. I mean, I was held hostage, essentially kidnapped in San Francisco, where, I was barricaded behind a door for 5 hours. I've had, people call me and just the most obscene, profane, heinous things you could possibly imagine, that you could even possibly think. That's what people have said and wished upon me and my family. The list goes on. So if she thinks that I'm taking this position for personal gain, I would love to know what that personal gain is. I have an awesome platform now, and I wouldn't change anything about what I have done. It has awarded me fantastic relationships. It has given me the lifestyle that I have. It has given me a sense of credibility that people listen to. They value the testimony and the experience that myself and other athletes, especially when it comes to the issue of men and women's sports, have. So yes, look, like, I wouldn't change a single thing about what I've done, but for Katie Porter to act like it's rainbows and butterflies to be in this position she knows that's not true, but she wants to say it because she, as Piers said, she couldn't think of anything she actually disagrees with me on, at least not that she was willing to say. Let's finish up the clip really quick before I keep going about my personal experience with Katie Porter. Let's watch what Bill Maher has to say about this.
Wasn't that the point of Title IX? Title IX in the early 70s was something that was it was a major event in feminism, that we finally have this law that says at colleges, right, and I think high schools too, but definitely colleges, women's sports have to be given equal to men's sports so that women aren't and this led to the WNBA and lots of other stuff. This seems to be the opposite of that. It seems to be so many instances, I think, where wokeness is the opposite of what I grew up as liberalism. Liberalism was, let's give the women an equal shot. And meanwhile, this is let's put a male in the swimming pool with the women. I don't get it.
It's crazy. And meanwhile, trans people who genuinely want to compete at athletics and swimming or whatever it may be, they're the ones who are suffering here. They need to be found a way to compete fairly and justly.
Well, what's your answer then?
I think there's one or two answers. I think they either compete against their biological sex, as many of them did before, or you create an entirely new category for transgender athletes. And then they're able to compete fairly. But what you cannot do is continue to allow more and more trans athletes to start decimating women's records, in some cases, irrevocably. It's just not fair.
Okay.
It's like the most entry-level thing ever. Like, women's sports. Why do we have women's sports if they're not solely for women? There is no such thing as women's sports if men can play in them, okay? Like, Bill Maher is a pretty traditional lefty. I would say he's one that exhibits spouts of common sense, which I can appreciate. And this is definitely one of those moments. Okay, so this had just happened, this video, when I was called to testify before Congress. Katie Porter was the ranking member of the subcommittee that I was set to testify before. So was pretty excited, honestly, to be in a situation where I would be able to directly look her in her eye and follow up on some of the things, number one, she said about me personally, and two, the things that, she said she disagreed with me with. I was curious what those were. So I was excited for this. So I get to Washington, D.C. that day, and I'm standing outside the Capitol, and I see Congresswoman Porter. And we make eye contact. And again, keep in mind, like, we had gone back and forth with each other on social media a few times at this point, with the general public being very much on my side. So she, I'm sure, probably felt like she was in hot water. I felt very confident and secure, not because I had the support from lots of people on social media, because I'm confident and secure in my stand. There's nothing you can throw my way that I'm not able to, honestly, pretty easily offer a rebuttal to. So anyways, I see her, we make eye contact, and it's like the oldest trick in the book. Like, she pulls up her phone to her ear and acts as if she's on a phone call, which, again, like, I see right through that. So I approach her, to which it was very clear she was not on the phone. I say, "Hello, Representative Porter, my name is Riley." I said, "I think you already know who I am, based on your comments you made to Piers Morgan on Bill Maher's show." The only thing she could say to me, she looks at me and she goes, "Congratulations on being a competitor." I was gobsmacked by this, but nonetheless, I continue on and I say, "I have something I would like to address with you." She, I kid you not, turns around with this, like, I vividly remember she had this stupid little backpack on and she hightails it, to which I follow her, right? I continue to follow her and I say, "Look, the comments that you made were disingenuous and you know it." Never once did she turn around. Never once did she acknowledge me, pass beyond calling me a competitor. It speaks to the total cowardice and just the lack of conviction. Like, these people don't really have conviction. The policies that they stand for, the principles that they, allegedly get behind and support wholeheartedly, they don't even know why they do. I don't think that Katie Porter actually thinks that I do what I do for clicks and likes. That's never been my basis. I'm not very great at posting on social media or on TikTok or any of that stuff. Like, that's not why I do what I do. Moral conviction is just a foreign concept to some of these people. That's why they call you a grifter, is because they can't understand, they can't possibly grasp doing something because it's the right thing to do, because it's fair, because it's righteous, because it's just, because it's moral. Like, they can't grasp that, so they call you a grifter. She had no problem on national television to, I'm sure, an audience of, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people calling me these things, but couldn't say it to my face. The best part about this, I'm ready to, this was before the hearing that I was called to testify for. So I'm ready to testify for this hearing, okay? Sat down, ready to go. This was right before this. She does not show up. She doesn't show up to the hearing. I don't know why. Was it because she was scared of that confrontation again? She didn't want to be put on blast in front of cameras at this point, to a even larger audience, to around the world, to all these social clips that would have gone viral, which there actually was a clip that went viral from this hearing. Representative Summer Lee was set to take her place as ranking member because she did not show up. This is a Democrat from Pennsylvania, one of those pesky squad members. And there was that viral interaction because Summer Lee, Representative Lee, said in her opening monologue, like, "I can't believe that I'm forced to sit here and listen to this transphobic bigotry." And then, as it was my turn to read my opening testimony, I looked at her and I said, "If what you just heard, if my testimony, if that makes me a transphobic bigot, then understand by your own logic, your opening monologue makes you a misogynist." So I bet you Katie Porter was glad that she missed out on that one. Anyways, I wonder if more clips will surface of Katie Porter, if more staff members will come out and share their stories. I hope they do. We will provide them cover and support. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning into the Gains for Girls podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe at youtube.com/OutKick. I hope you guys are engaging. You can comment in the comment section down below. We will see you guys again next week.